Hi, it's Cheryl back with you from Farmhouse Frugally. And you know what? It really is the little things. In home decor, it's great to have those big pieces, but oh, how sweet the little things are. All around my home, tucked in here and there, I have bunnies and birds and all kinds of sweet little things. In today's video, I will show you how to make a few more. I am going to start with this metal box I got on the good table at the dump, and I am going to keep the base black and just paint the cover in this pretty pale blue color. I'm going to regret that later. I probably should have painted the base of it brown to go more with my style and what I end up doing with this here, but I can always go back and do that later, or paint the entire thing blue, but for today I'm going to keep it as is. After it is dried, I am going to distress back some of it since it is pretty well beat up and a little bit old. I want to make sure that it does also look like it hasn't been freshly painted. So I'm going to pull back a little bit of the black with a just a little diaper wipe. And then once I have that distressed the way that I want it, I pulled out my IOD mold and I had made two of the little bunnies facing each other, and I already had those done in the IOD clay, so I thought that these would be perfect since they fit just perfectly on the front of this to go ahead and use some regular old glue as well as some hot glue and then face these little bunnies toward one another on the front of this. And then this is where I decide to use brown antiquing wax and should have used the black wax. Had I used the black wax, I think I would have liked it, although I have a lot more brown in my home than black. But that's okay. I glued them on, let them dry, and then went ahead and then just waxed that back. I do like the brown antiquing wax over the blue. It is a little dark, so I then take some clear wax and go back and erase some of the dark wax to make sure that it isn't quite too dark. My entryway is starting to have a lot of these color tones in it, so I decided to put it there for now. Then I got this candle at the dump as well, and it has not been used. It has a nice wooden top and a ugly label, so that is an easy fix. I took out my heat gun and just hit that label with the heat gun for a minute and then just peeled that label right off and then washed that real good. And then I had printed this printable for another project, but unfortunately I had my printer set to 4x6 or 3x5 and it wasn't the right size for the project. So I thought, well, I'm not going to let it go to waste. I'm going to go ahead and use the wet distress method here. Just go ahead and peel some of this into the shape that I need it to be. Before I continue, this All Things Spring collab is hosted by Monica and Dawn and Marla. Their channels as well as the playlist will be in my description box. Make sure you check that out. And I'm going to decoupage this onto the front of the candle. This is on a really nice thick rice paper, and I really love the fiber in this paper. I got it on Amazon and I love it. If I remember, I'll link it. And I had picked up this little postcard stamp when I was at the antique barn. In my last video, you'll see that trip. I picked that up for I think $3 and took my IOD empty pad and filled it with the IOD black ink and just went ahead and pressed that over the top just so I had a little bit of something filling in the blank space on that. And then so that I didn't get decoupage medium all over the glass, I tried to keep it basically to the label itself and put that on and then just wiped anything that I got on the glass off with the baby wipe and then let that dry and then shaved off anything with my scissors or my sanding block that was hanging over. And then I still had some dark wax on my brush, so I went ahead and just dark waxed that plain wooden top so that it would be more my style and more in the antiquing look. Of course, you could leave it nice and light if you like, if that's the style that you're going for. But for me, I like to have anything with dark wax on it if I can. That is sweet as it is, but I had these little bunnies that I picked up, I think at the Goodwill bins, and they are clean, believe it or not. I have scrubbed and scrubbed and scrubbed them, but they just look dirty. They're resin. I had initially thought I would paint them and then put some kind of a finish over the top, but I thought, you know what, I might just try a white wax and see how that works out. If I could get that down into all the crevices and cover these, then maybe that will lighten them up and keep all that detail. So just using a hard bristle brush here and getting that white wax down into, especially onto the first one, so that you can see the difference between the first bunny that is not done and the bunny that I'm working on now that is done with the white wax. And this makes it easy for me to peel back the little pink nose and black eyes as well. And this makes this little candle so much more spring-like and so much more beautiful with these French country tones and the sweet little bunnies on the top of that. So I think that's great. If you ever find ugly candles, they certainly are worth picking up and just flipping them. Now everybody has these little packs of bunnies in their stash from the dollar store, so I thought I would throw this in there just because I've been working a lot with this red transferware in my dishes, and I wanted a little pop of spring over in a little vignette that I had in my dining room, so I decided to leave these the color that they are. I could have painted them white. It would have probably made the decoupage napkin pop a little bit more, but I think it came out nice either way. I'm just going to put the Mod Podge on both of them and lay that one ply napkin right over the both of them at the same time and cut off the excess. And then once that dries, doesn't take long at all, I'm going to come in, cut those out, and then use an emery board and just go ahead and sand off any excess napkin that I have. And then I decided to keep one as is and to use the dark wax on another one so that you could see the difference. In this case, I actually like the one without the dark wax better, but it certainly does depend upon what you're doing with your display. I like the way the dark wax looks to bring out the background of the bunny, but it is just a little bit dark for the vignette that I'm working with. And then also when I have this one out, I decide to highlight the exterior, the outside edges, with just some distressing ink to really make the shape of the bunny pop. And then I just put the original hangers back on. Now you could obviously use ribbon or lace or something else here. I just hung the dark one on this little cabinet and then initially tucked the other one in the basket with the red transferware dishes that I have there, and then decided to hang it on the edge of the basket, which is where he will live for the spring, because I just absolutely love him there. And I just love this red transferware. I'm really enjoying this spring. And then that takes me on to my favorite project. Now, I don't know where I lost the footage of this little bucket, but it was striped. It was from the dollar store, I believe, or the Dollar General, and it was for Easter basket, and it was very, very, very bright. So I gave it 2 coats of white paint, and I have the sweetest little napkin, just a little piece of this napkin left, and it has hedgehogs on it. And I thought, how cute would this be for this collaboration? So I'm going to go ahead and decoupage the pieces of the napkin that I do have left. It's a little bit of a different shape. It's not square, so I did cut it to make sure that I could line up the hedgehogs perfectly. And then once I get that down, I am going to coat the entire thing with the Mod Podge to finish that off, because this is a cardboard box. I want to make sure it's good and sturdy. I also like the little sheen that it gives that napkin, and also glue that down good and protect that for any future abuse. Then I'm going to, after I get that dried, just take my sanding block, sand off the edges of that napkin, napkin and make that nice and crisp. Then I went into my stash, and my inspiration for this little Easter bucket or box or whatever it's going to end up being was the tiny little hedgehog, which I'm sure is initially, it's probably a cat toy. You're supposed to fill it with the catnip, but I thought, how cute would that be to put in a little nest? So I got that at the Goodwill bin, so I ran it through the laundry, and I put that in my little bucket with a couple of those Dollar Tree carrots. I added some little greens to the top to make those look a little nicer. And then I took a bit of a grapevine wreath that I've had in my stash. I've been taking bits and pieces off it here and there, and I wired the ends and used the original holes in the bucket to add a little grapevine handle to this bucket. And then once I had the bucket on and filled the little thing, I thought, how cute is this? I added the carrots and the hedgehog. I added a couple of little baby pine cones that I had in my stash and a couple of acorns. And I initially displayed it as is in my office, but then I decided that as cute as it is, it needs a little bit more. So I went ahead and added some of the greens that I used in the carrot tops, and I just tucked bits and pieces into the handle and just put a little bit behind the hedgehog, a little bit of greenery to pull that out. I would love to know what you think about these sweet little spring critters. If you would drop me a comment, I would appreciate it. Don't forget to check out the other creators. Thank you so much for stopping by. I will see you in the next one. Take care.